we had a chance to review the approval of the agenda?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
And I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So now we have discussion items. So the first thing on the discussion items is experience Galion, and the reason I put this on there was because I think at this point all efforts have been made to communicate with the board members, and there's been no response or cooperation. So I think as part of the economic development, to me, that has to do with the Bureau of Visitor and Tourism. So I think that, you know, whatever its purpose, you know, was a good idea, but I think we're to a point now where I think we need to either dissolve that entity and either see if anyone else is, I mean, Tom, you can help me with the procedure, but it's been too long, I think, and, you know, I'd like to see something, you know, be helpful with those rent funds. So with that, you all, I think, were here and have more experience, so I'd like to hear.
Mr. Palmer, was there an ordinance that established that entity?
No. And I wanted to bring that up. You cannot dissolve that entity. That entity is
right, and I'm talking
ostensibly a
about
nonprofit corporation on its
terminology.
own.
So
there is an ordinance. You can't dissolve them. You can unfund them.
Okay, and that's what.
That's the ordinance you're.
That's the ordinance.
There was an ordinance. The way here's the way it works. There is a statute, a Ohio Vice Code statute, that authorizes the imposition of the lodging tax and sets forth how it's to be spent. And a certain amount has to be spent in furtherance of Convention Visitors Bureau type activities, tourism. And it was the choice of council at that time to give that money to Experience County, and there was a contract, wasn't there?
There is
an agreement, yes, that was drafted. And
I think that was circulated among council, a contract, the ordinance.
I've read
Okay.
that.
All right, I'm not sure it got sent to all the members, but
Yes.
we sent some information from our office to Missy on that, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, that is your option right now, is that you can unfund them, and you're going into a budget season here, and it's probably the ideal time to do that if you were to do that, because you're going to be setting forth the budget for next year.
So my question is, what was happening before they were formed in 2019?
It was accumulating.
Okay.
The money that Thomas mentioned, there's 1.5% of the 3% bed tax. For anybody out there in Jefferson Township, here comes my criticism. And part of our effort to recruit the sleeping, we said the city would reduce that 3% to 1.5%.
Okay.
Jefferson Township went out, I mean, literally at the end of some people's terms, and imposed the 1.5%. Okay, so that's.
They're an additional.
They took the 1.5% we wanted to use as an incentive, and they taxed them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like, okay, someday we'll get over it. I probably won't. So anyways, so since then, we get 1.5% of the gross revenues, I believe it is. Okay, half of that goes into the general fund. And kind of once it just goes generally into the general fund. Right.
Okay.
And the other half that's left over now under revised code and under the contract automatically, if you will, goes to Experience Galion.
Where does the other 1.5%?
I don't know, it goes in the general fund.
The general funds.
No,
I thought you said 3%.
well.
It does. Half of it goes to Jefferson Township. Not to be a wise, I don't know what they do with it, but they jumped in and eliminated the
Because
incentive.
technically, that's not in the city corporation limits, the sleep-in.
Right.
And so the entity that is the taxing entity or where it's physically located, took the 1.5 that we were going to gift the sleep-in as kind of so they jumped on it. And
It actually is in the city limits. What it is
okay,
it's in both
thank you.
the city of Galion and in Jefferson Township. And because of the type of annexation we did, it remains in Galion and it remains in Jefferson Township.
Expedited type 2.
Yeah, she's right about that.
But
The
she
way
said-
it was annexed is an expedited type 2 annexation. We've had it, stuff happens, that wasn't the intent. And I almost regret bringing it up. But here's how, so they get, Experience Galion gets set off to, in a special fund, 1/2 of the 1.5 bed tax you pay if you stay out. Okay. Which was a large sum to begin with. It had been accumulating
Mm-hmm.
for several months after the sleep-in was here. So,
Well,
now, go ahead, let me continue to answer
okay,
this
go
real
ahead.
quick.
Go ahead.
So, in the startup, one of the reasons, in my view, the group was formed and they got going a little bit ahead of their, I'm going to start making enemies again, their organizational development. I'm not sure they were quite ready, but they did a few things that the city asked them to at the very beginning. Specifically, they provided critical funding for one of the free center feasibility studies. Okay. So, started out, we asked them to, and they bought into the free feasibility stuff. With that, I think it's about as legitimate as one could think. These are bed tax dollars, we're trying to create more bed nights, etc. Since then, they have been a dependable partner in funding the fireworks. Okay. I think they assist with, or did in the past, Third Fridays. They certainly each year, Oktoberfest has counted on them for some amount of money. That's where the issue is. We're not sure, you're not sure, I don't know, we've tried to find out what that amount of money is that they give to Oktoberfest. I think it's legit. I don't know if it creates bed nights, but it definitely is a source of activity. It's a good thing for Galion. So anyways, that's a longer answer, but in recent years, they have been counted on to pay for half the fireworks. And I know they support, in some part, those community events. Pickle Run, if I'm not mistaken, gets some money to cover some of their expenses. So what I'm trying to say is I'm not second guessing the legitimacy of what they funded. I think the concern is documentation, some sense of having allocated those funds. I think that's where some of our concerns are. There's an application process that you apply for funds, but we've had difficulty in getting the financial report. So I'll just shut up for a few minutes, honestly.
And that was because what I read, they were required to provide reporting, which they haven't. And I think that if they're doing that, we obviously that was in whatever the ordinance to that they would be audited and they would turn that over. Because from a standpoint of the economic development, I mean, if they're doing all of these things, would it be great to say, Experience Galion is doing all these things as sort of a kind of, attraction and give them credit.
Right.
So that's one thing. Now my question is, if it was written that there had to be an audit, does Jefferson Township, how do they,
They're not involved at all.
That's
they just
their own
get the
problem.
funds? And
They get
don't-
their funds, it's
and
not
there's no
ours.
account, they don't have to.
Right, not
Okay.
to us.
Okay,
There are, gosh, you want to be really careful with this,
okay,
but there are some statements out there in the community and people I have spoken to that give the impression that Experience Galion as an organization may not be meeting on a regular basis. I mean, this, we're dealing with taxpayer funds going to an organization. Maybe they are meeting on a regular, I don't know, but that's a real concern if that's the case.
well, I know, I was basically told that it's basically a defunct
It's
organization.
kind of inactive.
Yeah, basically that's what and so that's, I just feel like we need to just do something, because the longer we do nothing, I mean, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt too, but if you reach out to people and nobody responds, but they won't turn in any documentation or any, like they were supposed to, they're not going to get that credibility, which I would love to say they're doing all these things. But with no response, I don't think that looks, favorably. But we simply just need to decide what to do. And then we can use the funds and budget for certain things
Yeah, you have to spend that money
on,
in a certain way. It has to be given to an outside organization, and it has to be spent on the equivalent of Convention or Visitors Bureau type activities.
is there,
They need a,
well,
One
there's
of the
information
things-
out there about that too.
there's a basic thing that I'm sorry.
Who, is there a list, or is there a board packet for Experience Galion where it says this is the type, this is, for example, things you can spend it on? Because
That's
I
a
wouldn't
question
know.
for them.
Yeah, I think travel and tourism is
Okay.
whatever
It's
you
whatever
you think it could be, should be.
okay,
The issue that, real simple, and this shouldn't, I think a year ago, there was a request that it flared up. The request was, could Experience Galion provide some funding to cover any startup issues with the new hotel, or the new ownership? Turns out it was more seamless than they thought. They didn't have to hire an outside contractor to run the place. So that request, there's some emails that they're public record you can look at, where they sort of didn't want to come to one of these meetings.
right, I do remember reading that.
And
yes.
so, gosh, with everything else going on, trying to,
It's okay.
in the macro economy and our local, it's like, man, I don't want to pick a fight. But one of the things that would help us understand better where the money's going to, at least to start with, is they need to file I think it's a 990, whatever. What is it?
Well,
Tax exempt entities?
Yeah, they, because of their asset level, they would be filing a 990N, which is a postcard return, which won't give any information about their finances at all.
But you need to do it.
Oh yeah, you have to do it every year.
And one of my concerns is that, given its dormancy, that isn't, I don't think they can be mad at me because I can
Well, it's not good.
be in demand. There's a history there, but it's not good for them as an organization or for this. They got to get that. Just send us the copy of the postcard that I'm sure you've got in your filing.
Do they have a PO box or something?
I don't know.
You know, Thomas, I don't want to argue with you tonight, but I don't know what the threshold is, but they're probably knocking down 20 in new revenue, or 20,000.
Oh, no, I think you're right. I think that's
So
what it
it's,
is.
it's
about
probably
15 to
at
20.
that cutoff point, so.
No, the cutoff point, Tom, is 50.
No, I guess I remember that from much.
Yeah.
All right, never mind. We can only hope
can
that
always-
they can raise 50 out there at that sleep in, but.
What do you think, Dr. Fine?
Well, you know, I don't want to use COVID as the umbrella excuse, but you know what? This issue, you know, you said macroeconomy. I mean, that's where all of this kind of was coinciding with,
Right, that.
you know, with the last 2 years, 2021 especially, and the experience Galion was, you know, number 102 on the worry list, and
Oh, sure.
so, you know, not to sound like I'm making excuses, but you know, you're absolutely right. We need to find out, do a better job of getting things together. Maybe the next step is to unfund them as, but we can't, you know, the language of the taxes, correct me if I'm wrong, is
Yes.
not may be used toward, it's shall be used toward tourism and,
No, that's true. That's,
you know, so we can't just go and accumulate it. I mean, it's got to be directed somewhere. You know,
When did is this?
No, that's a
Is this
Ohio
always
revised
been
quote.
3% of the tax, or is this a new thing?
Yeah, it was a long time. It really didn't matter before the sleep in.
Oh, okay.
So I wish we never had helped sleep in come to town. Then we'd have this problem. No. That's where there's enough money to do something with, and that's where some of the issues. I think they have, I'll repeat it, on the upside, they've spent their money on some things that was well-intentioned. Maybe it didn't pan out yet, but these community events that are, you know, they're looking for money. They come to the business community. This was a little bit of helping
I was
Oktoberfest and
going to
these
say, I
other
know
groups.
Oktoberfest is
you know.
looking, because I just read it a few days ago that they're still looking for support.
Yeah, probably right down to the last minute. So
I guess-
I think. Go ahead.
And if you gave money, you should have like a big, like, I don't know, say, like you do. You know,
Right.
whatever, supported by or whatever, Experience Galion, like what you,
They've done some. You know, I don't even.
but
So I
it's
sound like.
kind of a,
It sounds like the Scarecrow and the Wizard of Oz, because I think they need to do some, like some go this way and can't make up his mind. But I would say they've done some good things, no denying it. They helped fund the bags at Third Friday a few years ago, had their logo on it. And this COVID excuse for everything does get tiresome.
It does.
But I think you're right. I think that it really, knock the wind out of their sails a little bit. One other thing, I think it's important, since we're having so much fun at them at their expense, and eventually they'll watch this, is you hear as you try to yes, I'm wrong, you try to check into this, that there is a large expenditure for a video that would promote the Galion area. And it's like in the category of, well, I don't know if it's too much to ask. Can we see that? Is it true? That's where the lack of being communicating. But some of the individuals, the fact is they're probably mad at the mayor, but they should. Y'all are not out to, you're not on vendetta. So I think knowing where, if there was an expenditure of pretty significant amount, the percentage that they've gotten, and there's a product that's been produced and they paid for it, that's where what's the right word, stewardship of public money from your point of view, say our point of view comes into it. So
I guess,
that'd be real valuable if us talking about them causes them to, I hope it's a really good video that promotes Galion in a positive way, but there were from what I understand, a lot of eggs put in that one basket for the video. That might sound like, what a craphead, he's like picking on us. I just want to see it. I don't think that's...
well, yeah, because I agree. I completely agree with that.
Okay.
And the other option is you still have it, you just have different members that are interested. How do you, that would really probably be, we've never really asked if anybody would like to be part of that
Well, it's for them to pick their
Yeah, I was
members.
gonna say,
There's
it's
a
not-
set of rules.
Yeah,
It's-
okay.
It's sort of depopulated itself. It's the hell of a thing about volunteer nonprofits is, let's do this. It's really great. And then after a couple of years or whatever, you can't,
Two quick thoughts. First is, some of these things you're talking about, corporate existence, filing of the 990M, these are things that can be verified. So there are things out there in an objective way that can be looked at to see if that's the case. I started looking right now, because I know how to do that. And the other thing is, I wouldn't think they would want responsibility of accepting city money if there wasn't an organization there
That's,
and in a kind of a working, legally functioning organization. I'd be really reluctant if I wouldn't sit on that board. I'm not saying again that they aren't. I'm just saying if that is the case.
I agree. I was thinking if I were on a board, I would never let it go with my name on something. I would be following up, or I would just say, I just
Resign.
don't. Yeah, exactly.
Well, and
Something like that.
I think that's what happened. The mayor alluded to the attrition of the original core group, and I think that's what has happened. Because who would want to take that responsibility?
Well,
I'm not
it's a
saying
liability.
again,
Yeah, so
I'm not saying that again that anything illegal was done, but we want to. There's a couple of things verifiable that Mr. Palmer. I think that's the place to start. And
Well,
then,
yep.
let's see what happens from there.
Then I
Rather
would-
than go off on the could be's.
I think the
branches.
lack of transparency is what is difficult to understand, and it being a small community, and if there is a video made, has anyone ever seen anybody filming anywhere, or have you heard of anyone filming?
It'll only take 10 minutes to sort that out, I think. Literally,
No, that's my whole thing, is
does-
let's be transparent. It sounds like a good thing.
Yeah.
If they want to do it, or if they don't, maybe other new committee members would want to jump in. If not, then we use it for whatever what is it, us that would decide on the Bureau of Tourism? We could
Yes.
if there was another group,
disperse the money as long as it went to,
Yes, and
Okay.
give you an idea, in Richland County, they divide it between 2 or 3 different organizations, all of which have some role in tourism.
but without extending this more, I'm not interested in a countywide travel and tourism. If you follow that, they're dealing with their own organizational challenges over there. And so I think I'm more inclined to sort of repopulate, find some people who want to, help to, I think transparency, accountability, we're on the same page there. One of the partnerships, to indulge me more, I never felt like it was clear that the money that comes there comes largely from the sleep in, but secondarily the hometown inn. And the stuff that they were in favor of, wanted to spend money on, I never felt, we need to have a conversation about that would promote bed nights out there. So you take other events that generate people and tie them in. It's without making food. It's the golden goose. You got to keep feeding that thing. That's where the money's coming from. So I would hope that someone from the new management group at Sleep In would be someone early on that would, we'd like to be at the table here. Not that we tell you how to spend the money, but we can tell you how to increase your revenue by doing certain things tried and true about increasing bed nights. And so that avenue of talk to the folks who are generating it, I'm hopeful as if we can get it going again or in a different way that'll be a part of it.
So how would that work? Like you would do an official letter and give them like maybe the board members that we find written down, 30-day notice, and then somehow you have to try to get other volunteers. So somewhere it's going to be, we'll have to find people if they want to do it.
I would like to say, there are a few people, few individuals, a couple, 3 of them, that I would try to persist in holding out the olive branch. I'm honestly concerned that this is and I want them to succeed. And I think they think I'm messing with them. I don't want to mess with them.
And I don't like that it's about you, because it's not about you. It's about our community and what's the best and making it better. They've really done a really good job with that area downtown Mansfield. Really 7 years ago, I used to go down there and I was like, oh, I will never come to Mansfield. I go down there now because I drive that way. It's
in fear,
beautiful.
and Julie,
They've done a lot.
And the fear that there'll be Mansfielders watching this, or everything you say can go everywhere.
Welcome.
I would say it looked like drug addicts and pokers in the picnic tables when I drove through there last night.
Last night.
So there's controversy. So anyways,
I was gonna say,
My goodness.
Gee.
I'm telling you,
Those
that's
are
what it
good
was.
today.
I don't know, maybe I'm just some prejudiced old guy that doesn't have my vision.
What part of
I was very, I drive
Right
at
downtown.
9 in the
On the
morning.
picnic tables, right now.
What?
They're not up at 9 in the morning.
That's true.
Fair enough.
The hooker might not be. It was just a congregation of,
Oh, my.
Monday nights.
Go ahead.
the only thing I was going to add was, along with Tom and Dr. Feldner, I think that Experience Galion has done a lot to the community. I think here recently, I think it was a combination of probably the virus. Not to use it as the ultimate, though, is that, let's face it, everyone, people get up in age. They're no longer interested, they're no longer able, they're no longer capable. And I'm not trying to pin anybody here, but I'm just saying, because I'm up in age. But the bottom line is there's probably various reasons why Experience Galion has contracted to the point where it is now. My concern, and I think it's pretty much been voiced here, is that while we appreciate what they've done in the past, and we hope they will continue and flourish, the issue is that because they're receiving public funds, that there has to be some type of accountability, transparency, communication, all these based on that information. They need to be able to tell us what they're up to, what they're doing with these funds, and it's not to critique them, but it's just simply to say, yes, we did this, blah, 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 blah. We have this, we're planning this, we're doing this. That is, in my opinion, a normal process of communication and discussion back and forth. I think, in my opinion, is I don't agree with doing any type of letter or anything. I think what we need, we've already started here with this community, with this discussion.
Okay.
That I think that, they understand that we're asking the question now. Now, if we don't get a response, in my opinion, the next step would be temporarily to suspend the bed tax going to them until we have some of those answers or those questions answered.
I think we've exhausted trying to communicate, because I can show you how I've tried, and I can show you.
But again, I guess I'm the one that would give them the added benefit of the doubt and see what happens. Because we can always suspend it in the sense of, and we can always restore it. But the bottom line is to maybe, for lack of a better term, jolt some folks into saying, okay, yeah, we need to maybe look at this. Because it's really easy to continue doing what you're doing, and we all experience that.
I guess my concern is if there's a video being made about Galion out that they're working on, and I don't know, the number I heard was $30,000. If we do anything, they'll just stop, or whatever they will do, but they would still need to turn over what they've done so far in terms of the video for.
That would depend on what our agreement with them says.
Well, let me jump. I would say accepting that in politic comment about Uptown Mansfield, which is what I saw.
It's okay.
I think this discussion.
Drive by any
I think
midnight and you'll probably see that.
Yeah, I think this discussion, Mike's right, that it will prompt people. There'll be people who are watching this, will hear about it by the morning. They'll feel compelled to respond, or, they'll tell us but I think this has been a good conversation, informational, and okay, what do we do next? We try to breathe oxygen, we try to breathe life in. I think we're set back if we do anything too rash to dissolve them. So I think finding a few new members, like I said a minute ago, getting them sleep in, play an active role in what we're going to fund and how there can be cross promotions. I think those are all, like for instance, you're at Pickle Run. They probably have a very low percentage of 44833. Like I imagine a lot of people haven't been there or haven't had a relative. So if you had build a promotion at Pickle Run, 4 bed nights or something like that, you would begin to, I think, make the connection between that place, the sleep in, and how it funds these things. Never felt like there's not a staff member, so nobody had the time to cultivate that relationship, to build the bed nights, to build the bed tax. So it's not self-serving in a negative way. I think it's just how things work. So anyway, not to go on too much. I think this conversation will cause the remaining active members to say, because I don't think anybody's picked on them or called them out or.
No, I wanted to say.
Not called them. I've asked.
I know.
Okay.
I'm just
I
saying
wanted to say
tonight.
really quick that I know two of the people that have been on the board, and I think they're still on the board, at least on paper. They're both incredibly desirous of the best for the community. And in fact, I think the problem might be exactly the opposite of what you said, Mike. It's not the fact of getting old, it's the fact that these are young people with families and careers.
Oh, yeah.
And
That was my understanding, is things, people,
that are
they got too
tied, they
busy.
have 400 things to do at the same time.
Right.
And they're they may welcome the idea of more people.
Sure they would. Do we know, can we get copies or information on how their organization applied for their 501c3 or whatever?
You can ask them for that.
Okay.
Yes.
I wish you just come and talk.
In fact,
It's, yeah, sorry.
That-
I mean,
I'm
we don't
talking.
have to be,
no, in fact, I think back that
So-
I may have been the one that have done that because I was sort of the ringleader of the whole idea to begin with,
Okay.
from the private sector point of view.
Mhm.
Get back in, and it was
Oh, sure.
But what I'd
It's
say about
different
that,
than-
I think so there was a desire to get some of the early feasibility, the third feasibility study funded. And there was excitement and they were anxious to dedicate that money that was pent up. There was in the neighborhood of 35 or 40,000 that sat in that travel and tourism fund. You look at that for years, like what's happening? We're slowly building up. So I think they lost momentum. I think we can repopulate it, and we're a lot better off engaging them. Whatever's left, how do we get this going again? Than putting them on notice or doing anything like that. I think that's probably a better course.
Well, I mean, maybe just a, reminder, hey, it's towards the end of the year, we need to get our auditing together, can you please submit, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I don't know who. We'll
Okay.
start it back
That's
up
fine.
again.
Yeah.
Try to do that. I would encourage you to. Let's say keep bugging them, but we're only asking. We're asking for a minimal thing, and we want to get re-engaged. But
Okay. I will try. And then if everyone else, if you know anybody that's on the board or anyone that knows, maybe just kind of, I mean, it's public now, but
well, it's
Are
not
we ready
anything
to-
isn't funny. I'll just get in trouble if I say anything else. I'd rather already know.
yes, you have.
Are we ready to move on?
Oh, yes.
Okay. To Dora.
Thank you.
So I talked to Miranda, and so the plan was, or is she's formed a committee. She said she has, I think they were supposed to meet this week. And she was working on that, and I haven't received an email yet from her, but we are moving forward in terms of forming a committee, and then there's someone that it would help with the writing of the ordinance and the mapping and everything, but it does take time.
Sure.
I know some businesses have been asking me, because I was the one that went around and did that, and I'm still convinced that I think it would be a good thing. So I just wanted to give you guys an update, let you know that Miranda's helping and forming a committee, and then when I know things, I will let everyone know and see where we are. And she did a really good presentation. You weren't here, but I'm sure she'd be more than happy to come back at any time once it goes to council if you want even more information and the statistics and all the research that she's done. So that's all.
Do you know offhand, Crestline had their Harvest Festival? Did they suspend the door? There was talk, and I'm just, I know that Miranda was here and talked about Bucyrus suspending their DORA for the days that
They do that, and so
for
the
bratwurst, but did Crestline
I
do the
really
same
don't.
thing? Okay, I just
no,
wanted.
but I can find out. I didn't read anything about. Well, I don't know. I know. I just don't know. But I'm trying to like Bucyrus Bratwurst Festival is like huge. I don't know how big the Crestline Fall Festival. You know what I mean? It's a little smaller, so. I don't know if
Maybe
they
the
did or
DORA
not.
increased the attendance. You know, so I was just wondering.
I know somebody asked me about if we were going to have it by Oktoberfest because they wanted to find out, and I obviously told them no, we wouldn't have it by then. Plus, so but there's people that definitely are interested.
I'm glad it's moving forward, and
Okay.
thank you.
Hey, may I make a quick comment? I've been kind of silent on this. I think if it's Miranda, as she forms the committee, there are clearly some permit holders and some non-permit holders, restaurants,
Mm-hmm.
that are more or less in favor. I think it's important to make sure you have folks who aren't in favor of it on that committee.
I could mention that if they will go.
But they aren't going to go if they're not asked, and if it's perceived as all these people have already decided they're all in favor of it. I think listening to what may turn out to be legitimate concerns or curbs on the territory or things that some of the, and specifically permit holders in the area, I think we should listen. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you just have a group, this is the voice of experience, sort of, that I think that you're going to end up with something that will be more readily accepted. If you solicit, like, why are you against that? What things? I think that would be real helpful.
I don't
Agreed.
If somebody
I-
asked me to be
huh?
on a committee that I was definitely against, I would probably say no.
But the reach out is the important thing. Whether
Okay,
You
and I'll
know-
mention that.
you know, I do think that's
Sure. If she's.
it's easy to get an idea across if every member is on board. Well, I mean, and that's important. But I do feel like in this case, and I'm not speaking with any kind of experience. I'm assuming by permit holders, you're talking about
Folks
maybe
in the obvious,
a private club.
tore down the building,
Right. Okay. So
was fixing up the property.
they're against
They're not-
it, and that's legit. That's fine. But my idea was that, and they said they didn't want to be involved in it. Perfect. But they might see after a time that it might boost their membership if they were to open that.
I
So
don't
I mean, that's why
I've
think
not
you need
talked to any of them,
Well,
but
the
there's
whole
two
point
of them.
is to increase people coming
But
to Galion
they
and going and
feel
walking
like-
around the streets instead of staying in,
But
the
private
certain places.
businesses or organizations are entitled,
Mhm.
to their bylaws and
Sure.
and things like that. So I think it is important to at least reach out. Let's find out what they don't have. Maybe they could speak at.
Yeah, I don't want to make the case for either of the service clubs that I know one's on record, one's ambivalent, but they've made major investments in their properties. The last thing they want are a bunch of non-members in their parking lot that they created to be able to facilitate part of their business. That's the kind of thing that talking to them about. Okay?
I think
So,
it's pretty
no,
regulated.
what?
I mean,
No, let me make my point. You have 150 people at a Saturday afternoon wedding reception. And those people have trouble getting, let's say Dora is super successful. I'm skeptical. And there's parking spaces are taken by people who are what you might say day tripping up and down Galion. That we have an issue of parking that could affect them. I'm making an argument the Elks may not, but every time they have a big wedding there, or there's a big wedding at the Catholic Church, parking uptown's an issue. And respecting that, I think, is important. If it's successful, I'll just keep an eye out during Oktoberfest. You will see that we're not to the point where they're selling parking front yards and stuff like at Bratwurst Festival. But those parking lots that they hope are for Elks members that are going to their beer garden will have a bunch of folks who, that's an issue that we need to think through how we're going to handle that. If they put a friggin' tow truck down there, it's like, yeah, man, yeah, that's better.
I was going to say,
We're out.
it wouldn't hurt to have somebody monitor the parking lot and say, put up some barriers and this is a private event. I mean, that's,
But if they're,
honestly, that parking is the least.
But then you're imposing
the
the
least of my
cost on
worries.
somebody who didn't want this to
Right.
start with.
I mean,
Well, here's
I was here
I'm
for
just
Good
saying,
Friday
a reach
and
out.
there was no parking issue. I
Well-
mean, there was no parking issue. And I was here for the last 2 or 3. I mean, and I walk up here, so I can see where people park and I can see how many parking places and streets are available. And there's a lot of, there's a lot
Parking,
of.
we'll disagree. Parking is a huge problem in Galion, particularly when you want to attract people. Planet 14 wants to have a band and stuff. It's parked up, man. And so that's one of my concerns that you may hear from people who are lukewarm or not enthusiastic. You know, don't park up my lot. Well, it's easy. Now you know that. I'm honestly, this is hypothetical, but there aren't enough parking spaces uptown. The fact that you don't have it at Third Friday may have more to say with the crowd it attracts. If Dora attracts no more people than Third Friday, then I don't think that's the all that some people believe it will be.
I guess the parking thing is like, you're somebody from
You are.
a big city. I don't care if 4 blocks away to me is close.
Well, that's the thing.
So that's why I can't wrap my head around the parking, because 4 blocks away is nothing for me to park. Because we go to big cities and we'll walk 5-6 blocks to get somewhere, and that's close. So yeah, the people that want to be up front, sure, there could be a parking problem, but if you go 4 blocks, I don't think you're gonna, whatever.
I don't think Uptown Galion is a parking problem per se. I think Uptown Galion has a problem where the parking spaces are located. And that's a different thing. There are parking lots that go empty all the time. And they're just not well spaced. And if you're in the wrong block, you're unevenly impacted by that.
I've seen that, yeah.
I'm belaboring it in a way. Just solicit their feedback. See if they want to participate. There are other food merchants that being able to get in and out. Let's say take out of the Chinese place. Then that's something that may be important to them when you involve them, rather than having a committee that is comprised of all advocates, both liquor permit holders and merchants.
Okay.
And quite frankly, with what just exchanged is a perfect example why you do need both sides of the perspective on this committee, because you do need to know how this person is going to feel because they're involved uptown. And this is neither back or forth, but the bottom line is that it actually does the committee a disservice if you lean strictly to one direction. The whole idea, in my opinion, or my thought, was that you have I call it steering committee, that creates and discusses the feasibility part at this point isn't a good idea. You know, sure, other communities, okay, is it not for us, our community? And I think it's, like I say, with the discussion here, I think it's made a great point of it, that you do need both sides of the coin. And and then if there's a decision made based off of whatever that decision is, or whatever that comes out of it, at least it's a representation of what was presented at the time of those meetings.
Give you another, I agree with that one. Another quickie, and then I have one quick item of other business. I know it's been a good, I think, a good discussion. We got 30 people that'll be our tenants pretty soon.
Oh, yes.
When we hopefully, so that might be another group. Hey, we don't have any problem with the door, but man, could you cut it off at 9:30? People walking up and down, we go to bed early. So just soliciting those points of view. I doubt if maybe I'm full of it on this one. Many of the residents will be, down there, as active door participants, but if it succeeds and there's a ban and there's some noisiness, I think, thinking through when it's cut off, how it's limited, getting feedback from uptown residents is probably pretty important. I think it's unsafe to assume that everybody who lives in apartments there will, this was like, I've been praying for this for all these years and now my prayers have been answered. I think you have a mixed crowd of residents. So anyway, thanks for letting me.
I'm trying, the whole point was providing something for the young people because they're leaving Galion and going to Mansfield, they're going to Bucyrus, they're going to Crestline. So my whole, part of it was really our young people are investing back in Galion and, that's something that they enjoy. So that was kind of in terms of the development, economically.
There's a constituency, Missy. I don't disagree with that at all.
So
People who want that, but from my view, the best way to accomplish it is to sound out people who may not be as either don't like the idea or not on board yet. And I
think those are all really good ideas. So I will talk to her and then we'll see what transpires. Anything else? Do we have other business?
I could do, I might. There's two things, real quick. But we open bids. It could be the streets committee, but this is mostly a development project. We open bids on the left-hand turn lane at Grant Road. This will be new to you, but maybe the other. So that started out at $300,000. So he's going to put up 300. We're going to get 300 from the state. When it went to final design, it came back at $460,000. So we stretched, tried to make it happen. We've got $460 funded. It's going to push. It's going to crowd out other stuff, but there's a plan to do that. On Thursday, they opened the bids, and it's $625-ish. So we've got a real. It was funded. The non-local part was funded through the TID, if you remember. And so there's a notice out there that we need to get the TID together, see if there might be some county money to supplement that. So I wanted to.
When was the initial 300,000?
Oh gosh, we can let you know. There was an ordinance passed. We accept.
So it's the then and now.
It's a change in construction cost, but they're going through the bid, seeing if there was a bust. I don't want to scrap the project yet, so that's out there. We're trying to find a way to fund it, but candidly, I don't see, because there'll be 8 to 10% additional on paying the inspection when we build that. So you think more like 700,000. And
just from us, and they put in the
on
others.
a total.
Oh, total.
Yeah. So they're fixed at 150. So all of a sudden, the state money is good, but I mentioned it only so y'all can think about it a little bit. We have a couple of weeks at least, but it was a heck of a deal at $300,000. A real nice improvement to be there when the new building goes up that's starting to be constructed. But man, $700,000. Yeah, so we're looking at a redesign. You may last point I'll say, you may find an incremental increase in cost by switching the surface to concrete. Because the early look saw the big cost bust in the cost of asphalt. Which I won't go crazy in it. But how in the heck are they estimating, maybe they're risking the cost of asphalt in 23?
Is the 150, 150 is what ODOT will put in?
Yeah,
and then we pay the rest. So can we ask them and tell them that?
Well, that's a great question. And when we got the 150, that was a really large award in the pool of funds that we competed for. So we felt real good about that.
Okay.
I think the answer will be, but the question will get asked, hey, look where we're at. Do you have some projects that nobody took out? We have some extra money there. But it's, I think, from an economic development point of view, what this turn lane did was allow us to have that improved truck access before the building was finished. The table was set. So one of the options, we may have to wait until the spec building is sold or leased, and then there are jobs, and then you can use those jobs to go get some more money. So it's one of those things that's better to know what happened than maybe at the end of the year we're doing, well, whatever happened to that turn lane? So it's not good news. I think we're going to work through it, and we'll all have to decide how much more it's worth to the city than we originally decided. And that's kind of this group and a few more council members. That's what I thought.
Okay. What was the other thing?
That's it. I would talk about the NIST drive and I don't know. It's not the end of the meeting. It's not the time to bring up that.
Okay.
But there's some capital improvements money and some state money that was going to go into the road and the water and sewer to build back to the proposed. Right. A lot of our money came out of the capital improvements fund. So when we go back to, well, do we really want the Brant Road? Well, we could use that money, but so it's kind of a live issue, and y'all should know about it. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. One more quick thing. There's a new site plan that is working through the Carter Crossing Apartments. We're hoping that site plan, which involves fewer units, can get funded, and that they'll fill up the space, but it won't be as multi-story as currently proposed. So it's one of those things that every time you go past, at least I did, say, dang it, we got to get that project completed. So it's like an old guy on the operating table whose heart wants to keep kicking out on it, pounding on it, we'll bring it back. So we're trying to resuscitate that. Wouldn't be talking about being. But yeah, I think it's that. So I'm not encouraged, but there's still, I think, live hope that that'll happen. I think the neighbors probably the 3-story thing was kind of off-putting back when we first considered that. So, okay, thanks for those 2 items and 3 items.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Does anyone have anything else? The next meeting will be October 18th at 7 p.m. here. And at this point, we can adjourn the meeting. Does someone?
I'll make that motion to adjourn.
And I'll second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
8:02.
Well, that was